My name is Roshanga Vikramasinghe, and I will be your moderator for this webinar. This webinar is one of a series of legal education webinars co-hosted by USAID's Co-Justice Project and the Colombo Law Society. With the support of the Colombo Law Society President, Mr. Vijay Gamage, and committee members, Mr. Vinara Gunasekara and Mr. Niroshan Sirivardhana. The Co-Justice Project supports the strengthening of skills and knowledge of members of the legal profession, working with counterparts such as the Colombo Law Society. Remote learning opportunities such as these webinars mean a wider, more diverse audience, which we hope will lead to a good question and answer session at the end. The Colombo Law Society was established in 1975 and is the largest branch association of the Bar Association of Sri Lanka. With close to 4,000 live members representing the civil, criminal, the unofficial bars, and the judiciary, the Colombo Law Society makes a vital contribution to the legal fraternity in furthering their skills, knowledge, welfare, and independence. A commitment reflected in the Colombo Law Society co-hosting this webinar series with Co-Justice. Now, this webinar is designed to last for about 60 minutes. During which time your microphones will be muted to ensure there is no background noise and disturbances. During the presentation, you are encouraged to type in your questions via the public chat and put it across to your resource person, Mr. Kara. I will collect those questions and present them to Mr. Kara at the end of the presentation for him to answer the questions. The microphones will then be activated and you will be allowed to ask Mr. Kara questions over the microphone as well as continue to type and ask him questions. Towards the end of the question and answer session, we will share a link to give your feedback to us. So please follow that and give us your feedback. If you want to view this presentation as a full screen, you will see 3 dots on the right hand side of your screen. Press it and select the full screen option for you to view this full screen. If you have any other technical problems, please contact the technical resources whose contact details have been sent to you earlier. Now, let me introduce you to this evening's speaker. I'm sure most of you know him. He has been with us for several of these webinars already. He is none other than Mr. Kara. He is a forensics expert with over 20 years experience. He holds a BS degree in chemistry and an MA degree in human resource management. He worked at the Turkish Police Forensic Laboratory at various positions where he practiced and supervised forensic investigations. His area of expertise include crime scene investigation, fingerprint identification and development, automated fingerprint identification systems, forensic laboratory accreditation, shooting reconstruction, and criminal investigations. Now what I will do is I will hand over this webinar to Mr. Kara to continue his presentation on digital evidence. Over to you, Mr. Kara.
Thank you, Mr. Roshanga. Yes, my screen. Yes. Hello and good evening, everyone. Welcome to the webinar series. This is number 5 about digital evidence and cyber forensics and crimes committed by using digital devices. So I'd like to start with a photo, actually. Can you see this photo, everyone? Yes. This photo shows what happens in an internet minute. As you can see, the number of Facebook, Google, Netflix.
We are not able to see the picture, Mr. Kara.
Oh, you're not able to? Okay. How about now? Can you see it now?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so this is what happens in an internet minute. You see the number of, this is just 1 minute, and these statistics are from 2019. The number of texts sent through WhatsApp, YouTube, Instagram, and Twitters. The reason I share this with you is to show the use of internet and mobile devices is increasing and increasing every day. All right. What we are going to discuss, okay, great, thank you. What we are going to discuss in tonight's webinar is I'm going to share some information about digital evidence. So with the advances in technology, even our ordinary daily life routines has changed. We can now do our bank, or we can pay our bills through our mobile devices by using internet. So what this change has brought some other factors into our lives. Criminals commit crime by using digital means. So the number of crimes by electronic means increase exponentially. And we are going to discuss the forensics value of digital evidence, what can be obtained, and how can be obtained through digital forensics. The value of digital evidence in criminal cases, types of digital evidence, what are digital evidence, what can we obtain, and documentation, storage, and acquisition of the evidence. And software. Shortly, we're going to discuss about the software to extract digital evidence from the devices. And I just would like to mention that at the end of this webinar, I plan to make a short hand-on practical exercise, which you all can do by using your laptops that you're now looking at me. Right. Okay, talking about forensics, and another point I would like to mention is that the purpose of this webinar, we would like to make a smooth transition from, as we may call, classic forensics to computer forensics, digital forensics. In last 4 webinars, we discussed topics in relation to classic forensics. As I just have explained, the number of digital devices being used is increasing exponentially. So computer forensics, it can be described as the collection, preservation, analysis, and presentation of computer-related evidence, determining the past actions that have taken place on a computer system using computer forensic techniques. What do I understand from these two definitions are that there are some techniques that are being used to extract the data from digital devices. And we are going to discuss about them. So the purpose of computer forensics is, please recall our discussions, previous discussions about crime scene and physical evidence. The purpose of computer forensics is the same, actually, to obtain evidence that is going to be related with the perpetrator. And all principles that apply to classic forensics, by classic forensics, I mean crime scene investigation, fingerprint, biological evidence, ballistics, and etc. Please recall our discussions about collection of evidence, preservation of evidence, chain of custody, and which actually, just to refresh our memories, I added a few slides so we can relate also digital forensics with the classic forensics. The computer forensics uses technology to search for digital evidence of a crime. Because digital means are used, we use technology to extract the digital evidence. Attempts to retrieve information, even if it has been altered or erased, so it can be used in the pursuit of an attacker or a criminal. This point is critical, important actually. Even if the data is altered or erased, we are able to still find and relate this evidence with the criminals. It is possible to classify computer forensics into two: incident response and computer forensics. Incident response is like live system analysis. What do we call by live? What do we mean by live system analysis? Imagine there is a crime being committed lively. Let's say cyber criminals are attacking a bank and they are trying to infiltrate into their systems. So this is a live action. What we can do, what can be done, is to cut the server, the live connection, and then investigate, examine what has happened in the servers of the bank. But what also can be done is lively monitor and acquire the data, the connection, which helps more to obtain data in terms of reaching out to the criminals. And computer forensics can be described as the post-mortem analysis. I mean, as an analogy, we can say like an autopsy, making an autopsy to the digital device. Ironically, actually, there is a software named autopsy.com. Let me write here, autopsy.com, which, if you like, you can go ahead and check them. It's used to examine and retrieve information from digital devices. So computer forensics can be used by that analogy. Right. So the difference: classic forensics and versus digital forensics. Forensics, also known as forensic science, is the application of science to questions that are of interest to the legal profession. And it is not limited to analyzing evidence from a murder scene. It can also be applied to technology. So let's imagine there's a murder case and then we have a crime scene. We go there, investigate the crime scene, collect the evidence, and then find evidence, relate to the perpetrator in the light of finding the person who committed the crime. In digital forensics, the evidence that is taken from the scene is used to find the criminal. As computers are the foundation for communicating and recording information, a new area known as computer forensics, which uses technology to search for computer evidence of a crime, can attempt to retrieve information even if it has been altered or erased. This is in red, which has a meaning that can be used in the pursuit of the attacker or criminal. So what is evidence? Again, a smooth transition to computer forensics from classic forensics. I'd like to mention once more that all principles that we apply to forensics, classic forensics, if we may call, also applies to digital forensics. So evidence is defined as what is legally submitted to a competent trial as a means of ascertaining the truth of any alleged matter of fact under investigation before it. Digital evidence also has to be obtained legally. And its evidence is also anything with a suspect, which a suspect leaves at a crime scene or takes from the scene, or which may be otherwise connected with the crime. In this case, in digital evidence case, the criminal doesn't necessarily have to be at the scene of a crime, but he or she is connected by using digital device, and the examination of digital device is going to tell us that. The court likes physical evidence because they are items the court can see and examine to interpret the facts in issue for proof beyond a reasonable doubt. Let's say in a classic forensics, there is a murder case by stabbing, and we have a knife in our hand. So this knife would include, let's say, blood from the victim and a fingerprint from the perpetrator. In digital evidence case, we will need to show the court, or the examiners will need to show the court that this is related with the criminal, and it carries out pieces of evidence or material that can be related with the victim and the perpetrator. Okay. So digital forensic science, we have some steps. The use of scientifically derived and proven methods toward the preservation, collection, validation, identification, analysis, interpretation, documentation, and finally, presentation of digital evidence derived from digital sources for the purpose of facilitating or furthering the reconstruction of events found to be criminal, or helping to anticipate unauthorized actions shown to be disruptive to planned operations. Okay, we are drawing a circle, and within this circle, telling the topics in relation to cyber forensics, and hopefully at the end of this webinar we will have a better understanding what cyber forensics are. So the cyber forensics includes network forensics, small-scale digital devices, storage media, computer forensics, and code analysis, malware analysis. All of these items are huge specific areas by themselves. In short, so network forensics, they deal with the traffic in the network that the criminals are trying to reach out to a certain system. Small scale digital devices, we can talk about like thumb drives, hard drives that are being used, or other media used for like playing games and etc. And storage media, as we are discussing, are computer forensics, and code analysis, malware analysis. This is a very interesting topic, and hopefully next week's webinar and our last webinar that we are going to discuss about cybercrime investigations, we're going to touch more to that point, malware analysis. So in a few sentences, malware analysis is when you, for example, when you receive an email from an unknown source, or what appears to be a known source, the attachment, it can be a JPEG, a photograph, it can be a PDF file, it can be a Word file, may contain a virus. It's also, we can call them a malware. So there is a special, let's say, top brand people that are dealing with the malware analysis. which falls under cyber forensics. Okay, it's the scientific examination and analysis of digital evidence in such a way that the information can be used as evidence in a court of law. This is the purpose, isn't it? What are we trying to do when I have a digital device like this, for instance, and this device is used in a criminal activity? What we want is to extract that data and make it in a way that court will see and rule that it is an evidence that can be objectively relate with the criminal. Online data, also next week's topic, but we were going to mention here, data obtained online and or extracted from digital devices can provide a wealth of information about users and events. Like at the beginning, I have shown you the number of Twitter or Instagram or Facebook. Some of the crimes are being committed by using social media. So this online data can also be obtained by using digital forensics. For instance, also gaming consoles, which operate like personal computers because they can also connect to internet, store personal information about users of the devices, which can include email addresses and financial information, credit card data. And why is it important, this credit card data? Because then the criminals can unlawfully log into the system and steal this data. So in this point, I'd like to introduce a new term which we are going to discuss in next week's webinar, hacker. Hacker is someone who seeks and exploits weaknesses in a computer system. Hackers are usually known as BAT as a term, but there are 3 types of hackers it is possible to describe. I'm going to type here: white hat hacker, gray hat hacker, and then black hat hacker. So white hat hackers are the good people that tries to find the flaws, the problems in the system, and they make penetration tests, and then they share these flaws, the problems in the systems, to the owners of the system so they can correct. Gray hat hackers cannot see what you have typed. I typed it again. I hope you can see it now. Right. So gray hat hackers are, they can do both good and bad. And black hat hackers are the bad guys that exploits the system flaws and the problems in the systems for criminal activity. Right. Let's continue with cyber forensic activities. The cyber forensic activities commonly include the secure collection of computer data, the identification of suspect data, the examination of suspect data to determine details such as origin and content, the presentation of computer-based information to courts of law, and then the application of a country's law to computer practice. These secure, identify, examine, presentation, and application can be called the activities under cyber forensics. Okay, we also have 3 A's under cyber forensics, which is acquire, basic methodology, acquiring the evidence without altering or damaging the original. Let me put a question here. How do collectors, let me say, digital evidence collectors, make sure that the collected digital evidence is not altered or damaged? Think about that, and we're going to come discuss this point. Authenticate the image. Authentication means that keeping the originality, and then analyze the data without modifying it. Very important, very critical. Okay, when compared to traditional evidence, for instance, paper documents, weapons, digital evidence poses unique authentication challenges because of the volume of available data, its velocity because of the speed, and its volatility, and its fragility. Some countries have implemented rules of evidence with authentication requirements that specifically pertain to digital evidence, and other countries have similar authentication requirements for traditional evidence and digital evidence. Let's say in a classic forensic situation, we have a glass, and this glass includes, let's say, DNA evidence and fingerprint evidence. And this one evidence we have, what we have to be careful is contamination. Keep it out of contamination, and then it reaches the laboratory and examined by using chain of custody. In digital evidence, it is because it's volatile. Let's say the battery dies, and if the battery dies, is the information or artifacts, what we call the evidence we are looking for, is it going to be lost? So there are some differences. Right. Yes, as we discussed, there are overlapping principles, and we're going to discuss in a minute. Basics of criminalistics are constant across both physical and cyber and digital. Locard's exchange principle, this is very important. When a person commits a crime, something is always left at the scene of the crime that was not present when the person arrived. And the opposite is also true. When a person leaves from a scene of a crime, he or she is very likely to take something from that scene of a crime. So digital data establish that a crime has been committed, can provide a link between a crime and its victim, or can provide a link between a crime and the perpetrator. These are other definitions. Electronic environment where digital evidence can potentially exist. Yes, these are the principles. It's extremely volatile. Once the evidence is contaminated, it cannot be decontaminated. The court's acceptance is based on the best evidence principle, with computer data, printouts or other output readable by sight. Stream copies adhere to this principle as well. The important factors are legal procedures. It's not compromising evidence. Every piece of evidence as it will be used in the court. Documentation is again another point critical in criminal cases. If the documentation of the evidence is not done properly, then it can be challenged by the lawyers. And the chain of custody has to be there. Write blocks. Write blocks is something I'm going to touch in a minute. Let me mention here shortly. Write blocks is when we have a digital device, then we take the image of this device and the officers have to make sure that it's right blocked, which means during the imaging process, the device is not affected and altered. Imaging, as mentioned here, is bit by bit copy of a piece of electronic media. Okay, some principles about cyber forensics. When dealing with digital evidence, all of the general forensic and procedural principles must apply. Upon seizing digital evidence, actions taken should not change that evidence. When it is necessary for a person to access original digital evidence, that person should be trained for the purpose. So if the officer or whoever coming into contact collecting that evidence, we call them crime scene technicians or crime scene investigations or first responding for digital evidence, differing from country to country, they have to be trained, because there are some special tricks, let me say, when collecting digital evidence. If, for instance, if the device is open, should you turn it on or turn it off? Or let's say you have to a server with lots of cable connected has to be taken to the laboratory. What's going to happen to the cables? So there are some tricks that they need to know. All activity relating to the seizure, access, storage, or transfer of digital evidence must be fully documented, preserved, and available for review. Documentation is very important. An individual is responsible for all actions taken with respect to digital evidence whilst the digital evidence is in their possession. This point is related to chain of custody. Please recall the chain of custody form. In the chain of custody form, we have the name of the person, officer, who is coming into contact with that evidence and for how long this person is have the possession of that particular evidence. They are all written. They have to be all written and documented. This form, we call it chain of custody form. And I believe in your cases, when there is an evidence, not only for digital evidence, but for all kinds of evidence, you will have the right to require and to see the chain of custody form. And when you look at the chain of custody form, on that form, it has to be crystal clear that who held that evidence for how long and what that person has done. Like, for instance, I'm an expert in fingerprint development and I'm keeping this. It is handed over to me. I will sign it and I'm going to write for fingerprint development purposes. With some differences from country to country, a chain of custody form has to be there and open to your inspection. Sorry, I missed the last point. So the agencies which are responsible for seizing, accessing, storing, or transferring digital evidence is responsible for compliance with these principles. Here I'm going to write accreditation. Please write yes if you can see what I have typed. Yes, thanks, Kevin. Raj. So ISO 17025 accreditation is the accreditation for forensic laboratories, which means that they are in a certain standard. ISO 17025 is a globally recognized standard, which makes sure that the certain examination laboratory, let's say ballistics, DNA examination, fingerprints, or digital laboratories, digital forensic laboratories are in that standard, and they are in compliance with the standards set by ISO. Okay, so computer forensic, what are the capabilities? What can we obtain from digital devices? Recover deleted files. Interesting, right? Find out what external devices have been attached and what users accessed them. Is it important? Let's say you have a switch, or this device that you are using to connect to the internet at your home, or let's say in a company environment. Whoever has accessed to the internet by using this device, it is possible to find out by examining this device. Determine what programs ran. Some of the programs are used for criminal activities, so we will be able to understand with the examination of computer forensics. Web pages, accessed web pages by using digital devices. Recover emails and users who read them. It can happen sometimes that illegal intrusion to an account of a person, and that can be a subject of a criminal case. So at the end of the webinar, we're going to make a simple exercise where you are going to see your IP addresses. IP address, let me write here. IP address is internet protocol. Actually, we are having a set of numbers which is called IP address, and when we are accessing to internet, we are assigned an IP address that is used by the device that we are accessing to internet. And that IP address, along with the MAC address, let me write it here too, MAC address, are going to be used to identify the person who has accessed to that website or to that device, etc. So recover chat logs, determine file servers used, discover documents, hidden history, recover phone records and SMS text messages from mobile devices. SMS text messages are the most common, and dating back probably the simplest way that most people know. And find malware and data collected. So these are the points we can find out by using computer forensics. How is computer forensics performed? By using these steps. Identification. What is identification? Collection, bag and tag. Bagging and tagging is two terms used here. Item collected has to be bagged. There is Faraday bag. I have written in the chat space a bag called Faraday bag is commonly used for the collection of digital devices. It is like it's a sort of bag used to insulate the electronic device because it can receive orders from its owner or the criminal to erase the data in it, and this bag is used to collect digital evidence. Of course, preservation, examination, analysis, presentation, and report of the findings. Yes, identification. The first step is identifying evidence and potential containers. It sounds simple, but it is more difficult than it sounds because there are small-scale devices, non-traditional storage media, and multiple possible crime scenes. Right. Well, this is called a thumb drive. Ironically, it's in the thumb shape. So we have, it's a computer tower here. This is another thumb drive. And this is a thumb drive too, but in a different shape. This is a Sony device that also can use to access internet, which can have some information. And interestingly, there is a refrigerator here. End of the presentation, I'm going to tell you more about that. As you know, lately with the advances in technology, some devices, our day-to-day devices, are they have built-in technology that can access to internet. For example, this is a refrigerator which has internet connection, and they are called IoT, Internet of Things. From your home, you can, or let's say from your work, you're at work, and by using the application on your phone, you can give an order to your refrigerator to freeze something or to defrost something, or etc. So they can be connected to internet, which makes it important for criminal investigation when these devices are involved. Right. The context of investigation is very important. So what is the topic? Is it a sexual harassment or the violation of data privacy, whatever? It is stored on digital devices, computers, smartphones, tablets, and any other devices that have digital memory capacity. External storage devices like external hard drives, USB flash drives, the network components, routers, for instance, servers, and the cloud, the infamous cloud. It's a new topic. You may have heard it a lot. It's coming, and it's every day more and more in use. There are companies that are providing cloud services. In simple term, it is data centers where companies store their data in remote geographic locations. Why do they do that? Because there's a cost of maintenance of servers if they are in their office space. And so cloud forensics is another area if there is a violation in the cloud servers. That is also classified under digital forensics. Okay, collection. Please shortly have a look at this figure. I just opened my window. So care must be taken to minimize contamination. Collection or sizing items here, we call them media. So we call this digital media collection. And then examination phase, we call it data collected and examined. And then going up, it is at the analysis phase, it is information that we are looking at. And at the end, when the relevant information in relation to the criminal case is reported, and then it is evidence. And by the way, this is NIST standard You may have a screenshot, or it's a guide to integrating forensic techniques and incident response, taken from there. Right. Again, digital media, different types. Okay, documentation during collection. So as you can see here, there is a time and date. Everything that is seen on the in relation to the digital device when collected has to be recorded. Like the type, is it an HP device or Lenovo device, whatever, and the type has to be documented. And you have the right to see them on the reports that you're going to see. So detailed photos and notes of the computer. Sometimes you see so the account number and username, password is written. Documentation. If you recall, we have the crime scene documentation methods, which was the topic of one of the webinars, has to be used here, which is photography. Right. Another important point is image, taking an image of the digital media. Rule of thumb, make 2 copies and don't work from the original if possible. So a file copy does not recover all data areas of the device for examination. Therefore, taking image is necessary. There are special devices to take the image of the digital device. For example, I'm going to type here FTK Imager. This is a special device that comes with special cables and pins on this cable, which allows to take the image. Actually, it's a bit-to-bit copy of everything in that digital device. Sometimes it happens to us. Let's say you have a file on your computer and you're going to take it to your work by using a flash drive or a thumb drive. So this copy does not recover all data when it comes to digital forensics. Because of that reason, there are devices. I have written one of them here, FTK Imager. Is used. So there are special devices to take image of the digital environment. We basically duplicate the image. It preserves the original evidence, prevents inadvertent alteration of original evidence during examination, and allows recreation of the duplicate image if necessary. Okay, imaging. Yeah, so there are write blockers on the imaging, which actually blocks alteration in the software and hardware. Yes, bit-for-bit copying captures all the data on the media, including hidden and residual data like slack, space, swap, residue, unused space, deleted files, etc. It is called image, mirror image, like taking the original. Often the smoking gun is found in the residual data. Why? Because if that person or hacker or criminal has committed a crime, he's going to, or she's going to try to delete that data, but is it really deleted when he or she deletes? No. So imaging from a disk drive to a file is becoming the norm. Working from original is risky because of the loss of data. Okay, that brings us to also another important point which is called hashing. Hashing is our point about documentation and working from the original. How do we demonstrate that the image is a true and unaltered copy of the original? Right, in digital forensics, this is solved by using hash data. Hashing has some different types, MD5 or SHA-256. It is a mathematical algorithm that produces a unique value by using 128 or 512-bit encryption. So in other words, you have like 5 files, and those 5 files have been, their image has been taken. At the same time, digital forensic officers, they take the hash value of these 5 files. Even if 1 byte or 1 word is changed in those original files, the hash value will change. So if unaltered, not changed, hash value will be 1 and unique. Okay. The value can be used to demonstrate the integrity of examined data. Changes made to data will result in a different value, in a different hash value. It can also be, the same process can be used to demonstrate the image has not changed from time L to time N, which means by time it has not been changed. Okay, right. Verify integrity of image, MD5 and SHA. Please don't get confused. These are some encryption methods that are used for hashing. Yes, examination. Right. There are some issues with digital forensics tools that are certified has to be used. We will discuss about those tools actually. Lack of standards, and these are global problems. Lack of certification for professionals, understanding by judiciary, lack of curriculum accreditation, and rapid changes in technology. Right, chain of custody, we already mentioned. I will pass this quickly. In order for evidence to be admissible in a court of law, strict accountability must be established to show where, when, and how an item of evidence was collected. And hash values here helps us to document that it has not been altered by the examiners. Okay, chain of custody. Documentation is crucial. So the original state must not be lost. Documentation aims at producing a permanent and objective record of the scene, of the physical evidence, and any changes that take place has to be recorded. The same goes in digital evidence. Right, these are the methods in crime scene documentation. Will apply also in digital photography, videography, report, and sketch. Is documentation. Yes, we already had this. So shortly, what happens when a file is deleted? In Windows operating systems, we have these FAT and MFT. Deleted pointers, they're actually not deleted. The actual data that was contained in the file, it's not deleted, it's just allocated somewhere else. Right. What are some types of investigations that can be used by digital forensics? theft of company secrets, employee sabotage, credit card fraud, financial crimes, embezzlement, economic crimes, harassment, child pornography, major crimes, and identity theft. Okay, media devices that hold potential data, computers and laptops, iPads, iPods, MP3 music players, and all digital other devices. Yes, we have discussed and parsing. Yeah, hash value. Just a bit more about that. Size digital devices are considered as the primary source. So the forensic analysts does not acquire data from the primary source. Instead, a duplicate is made of the contents of that device, with the risk of alteration. And sometimes we have devices, for example, let me give an example for myself. At the crime scene, when police raided into the accommodation of the perpetrator, he threw his mobile device out, and before throwing away, he crashed the device and then threw it away from 6th floor. However, the main card, what we call, and the data stored area was still eligible for examination. But of course, for any kind of electrical circuit issues and other risks, image is taken from the digital media, and then hash value is the duplicate copy showing that it's not altered. To verify whether the duplicate is an exact copy of the original, a cryptographic hash value is calculated. It's not calculated like 2 times 4 or 4 times 5 or -3. It's there are software doing this. What is critical to know here is hash value is unique, and any change made in the digital environment will result in a new hash value. Okay. Right. Also, quickly, physical and logical extraction of data. It's possible to talk about. And physical extraction involves the search for an acquisition of evidence from the location within a digital device where the evidence resides, such as the hard drive of a computer. A physical extraction basically is everything that is inside that device, whereas the logical extraction is what seems to be there. So in physical extraction, you can also download the deleted files and take the image of the device. Right. That brings us to the point. So how do we do this? There are software. There are some open source software and also licensed software that you pay money. Actually, there are license fees and really high fees every year have to be paid. And it's really interesting. Some of these software companies are using IP addresses to check whether this software is used by one user or 2 users. So they're really strict on that. Yeah, as you can see, there's mentioned some of them here. There's Cellebrite here. We have FTK, Access Data, Forensic Toolkit. EnCase software is the most, I can say, the most common software used. And then we have XRY, MSAP, and then we have Oxygen. We have Notepad++, Access Data software. So what EnCase does is it does acquisition, reporting, and NScript collect, analyze, and examine data. Also, it helps to find deleted files, which is a feature of this program. It takes duplicates. They come in bags with lots of cables because there are, as you know, a lot of different types of tablets and mobile phones. Their connectivity may differ, so this software also comes with a bag to duplicate image. Yeah, it can be used on Windows, Linux operating systems, Apple operating system, Oracle, and etc. It supports smartphones as well. Here's a screenshot from Encase. How does it look like? A new case, open, etc. Again, it shows the files here, which actually there are some keywords that are used to make searches by using this software, and you see it brings images here, gallery, document view. So basically, we make a row search or indexed search, bookmark screen, and here it's important, deleted files. As I said before, what we think is deleted, it's not deleted, it's allocated to somewhere else, unless it is wiped. There is software to wipe the hard disks. Okay, so why legal people, as legal people, we're discussing the digital evidence? Because the digital evidence, they are potentially used for fraud and counterfeiting. What can be found in the digital media? Money order images, customer information, internet activity history, false identification. You can take a screenshot of these. As a lawyer or legal person, you may request, I mean, if you have this case, then you may request images of signatures. Credit card numbers may be found in digital environment. So if you have an harassment and stalking case, you may have these information in the digital environment, maps and GPS records, which is important if the perpetrator, as you know, most of the devices have now tracking systems. Google has tracking system. I am using, for instance, an application called Sports Tracker. It tracks me wherever I go when I'm making sports. So a person denying to visited a place can reveal a different type of information. Software piracy, we have chat logs and internet history logs, emails and letters, of course, is important. In narcotics cases, for instance, contact details, recipes, drugs recipes, emails, databases, false IDs, prescription from images can be found. In domestic violence cases, potential evidence can be the diaries, contact details, again, emails and letters, financial records, medical records, and telephone records. So in telecommunications fraud, software cloud, customer database, mobile numbers, and internet history logs, pretty much the same. In identity theft, you may have these data found in the digital environment. And also another point to mention, you may request, let's say, when there is an evidence, you may request that type of examination. So as a lawyer, you can ask, I want this device to be checked if there is a counterfeit image of a certain currency. So it's important to know that these are available, and then you can request. So what happens, when a file is deleted, we already mentioned that. Yes, when a file is deleted on a computer, it is placed in the recycle bin. If the recycle bin or trash is emptied, the files that were deleted are removed from the file allocation table, which archives file names and location on hard drives. The space where the file resides is marked as free space, unallocated space, which means incoming data can be stored in there. However, that space is still resides in another part of the hard disk, unless it is fully or partially overwritten by new data or wiped out totally. Okay, we're coming to the end of our webinar. A few newer developments in technology that is considered under digital forensics. One of them is smart vehicle forensics, because vehicles are now carrying out data that is that can be related with the owner, because they are they have internet enabled functions, like smart vehicle forensic process standards and tools. They can enable forensically sound digital investigation. Like what? A wealth of information such as places traveled and frequented, home and work address, numbers dialed by using Bluetooth devices, for instance, that could be used when investigating crimes. Another point is IoT forensics, which is also a topic under digital forensics. IoT, as I said, Internet of Things. The oven, for instance, at homes now being used, or they have internet connection, or the infamous Alexa device, I think from Amazon, that they can be used by digitally from remote by using remote access, or the refrigerator that I have shown. They carry information, digital information that can be accessed and hacked by the criminals, which is also a part of digital forensics. There is an example here in the United States, the data from a Fitbit, which is a device that records data of fitness data. An IoT device that monitors health and physical activity was introduced as evidence in the murder of Connie Debate, Altimari, 2018. Okay, there is another term called anti-forensics. The criminals or the perpetrators, hackers, who know that the devices, when collected by law enforcement, they use anti-forensic techniques to wipe out or to clean their history, including data hiding, like encryption, stenography, by putting passwords on the files. So this is another term I wanted to share with you. Okay, we came to the end of our presentation. I will be very, very happy to answer your questions. Before going to the question and answer section, on your computer's left side, the search button, search section, I want you to type, please, cmd.exe. And then this is going to start a command page, like cmd.exe. let me type it here, cmd.exe. On the search section left of your screen, please type cmd.exe and then type enter. Hit enter button. Okay, I'm going to share my screen now. So if you have done like that, you will see a screen like this. Okay, this is a CMD. This is the command page in Windows. So here I want you to write, please, ipconfig, and then hit enter button. Yeah. So if you have typed ipconfig, you're going to see IPv4 address. There are two types of IP addresses, IPv4 and IPv6 address. Here I'm using this IP address. Can you please type yes if you are seeing my screen on the chat button? No? Oh. Okay. Yes, I think now. Yes. Okay, thank you. Now, if you type cmd.exe, you should be seeing the screen. And then I'm typing here ipconfig and then hit enter. When you hit enter, you see here your IPv4 address. This is the IP address that I am assigned by Internet Service Provider, ISP. Okay. Why am I sharing this with you? Because when we access to internet, we are given an IP address. IP is Internet Protocol, and this address is used to identify the person who is accessing to the internet. Another command, please, I want you to type is netstat, as you see here, and then click enter. Right. So this is after I type netstat, network status. This is the protocol. The systems are using protocols. This is transmission control protocol. And this is the local IP address that I have. And these are foreign address. These are the IP addresses that I am accessing, that I am using, websites actually. And these one here are called port numbers. Port numbers. Okay. Can you please type yes if you could do the exercise? Great. So have you seen your IP address? Please type yes. Perfect. Great. So these are your internal IP addresses, and when you access to internet, and the same goes for hackers, for criminals, when they access to a certain website for criminal purposes, they have their IP address. Of course, there are lots of different techniques that they are using to hide their IP addresses. They are using, for instance, VPNs, which I'm going to type here, VPN, which is called Virtual Private Network, Virtual Private Network. So they are using virtual addresses to hide their IP addresses. But at the end of the day, the IP address that oh, there are questions, right? Your ISP, your internet service provider, for instance, here I'm using Turkish Telecom, and I buy my internet from them, and I'm paying a monthly fee, and they are providing internet service. This is called ISP, internet service provider. Internet service provider, they assign IP addresses to each user, and each device that we are using. For example, at home, I have my phone also using Wi-Fi, and I am connected. So this has a different IP address than the laptop that I'm using. For instance, at home we have a television that can also connect to internet, that is assigned another IP address. And these IP addresses are used to identify which device, and then from that device we will be able to use to identify which user has been involved in this by using this device. Okay, thank you very much for listening to me. It's an interesting topic, and I'm happy to share with you. Now, going to the questions, as you said, there may be.
Give me 1 second.
Question?
Yeah, give me 1 second to put this up. I'll share.
How can we use okay, so I'm going to start from the what's that? Oh, perfect. So as you said, there may be a possible penetration of virus of Word file, JPEG, picture, even via video clip forward through social media platforms, even like WhatsApp, kind of personal and instant messengers, so that hackers can make surveillance on our all activities, even simply steal our data, password. So my first question is, in case of suspicion of possible bug or virus in our electronic device like mobile or laptop, what are the symptoms we can readily observe, especially in mobile? The first symptom is slowing of your device, because in the background a software, actually a virus is a software, it's a program, and it is using the CPU, central processing unit, and RAM of your device, whether it is your a laptop or your mobile device. So your mobile device is going to be slower. This is the first symptom. Second one, there are some very well programmed viruses that are very small in size and really hard to detect. Because of that, there are you can use an antivirus software. Also, there are ones available for mobile devices. They are going to detect most of the malware coming with the attachments. Another recommendation is going to be, do not open, never ever open attachments from unknown sources. And if there is a source, there is an attachment that you you still want to open. So just for the sake of answering this question, and the chat, I'm typing an address. Where is total.com? So where's total.com? Where's total.com? If you open this site, if there is a suspicious file that you want to check, it may be that your readily available or installed antivirus software didn't detect, and you are still suspecting from that file. Run a search. So this site runs a search on, I think, 19 or 20 different antivirus sites and gives you a result. Is it a suspicious file or not? How do they do that? They analyze the content, and if they find some codes, some script, suspicious scripts in that folder. So another thing how we can readily observe, another thing is that most viruses are sending data by using your device. Please remember netstat. If you type the netstat, it's going to show you what sites your device is connected. So the websites you connected, I mean, consciously, you know, and you may see some IP addresses, some connections that are not in your address tab. So then they may be sending and making connection to there without your awareness, without you being aware. Actually, it's not so difficult to hack a computer or system. It's very easy. There's a program called Kali Linux. I'm writing here. Kali Linux, and this is, you can, I mean, usually use it for penetration testing. I mean, if there is a system flaw or there is a open problem in the system, there are exploits. It's really very interesting. I mean, just for the sake of answering the question, even Google has a hacking database. It's called GHDB. You can Google it. Google hacking database. So I just typed it in the chat box. There are exploits here. So these are, why are they sharing these exploits? Obviously, companies or people that are using internet services, there are lots of services on internet, like for business also. When you reach to your bank, internet banking, you're using internet services. So these exploits under Google hacking database are used to exploit systems. Ideally, system administrators have to patch or correct their systems against these exploits. But some system administrators are lazy, or they're not aware of the new problems in the systems. So hackers are still using them. Okay, second question, how to do basic screening of our devices to check whether our device has been succumbed to such attacks, in addition to antivirus software, especially in mobile, since most of the mobile users don't use antivirus applications in mobile devices, Android platform. How do the basic screening our devices to check? Well, do not download something that you are not sure from the source. This is a secure way of keeping your device secure, and there has been such attacks to anti-software, in addition to anti-software. And then by using VirusTotal, you can just put that file over there to see if it has any virus in it. So finally, how to avoid or secure our devices from possible attacks like virus and bugs, since most of the users inadvertently day-to-day face these issues and involved with unnecessary issues. It may look simple to you, but to answer that question, always use a difficult password. A difficult password, I mean, you have to use symbols, like symbols, numbers, capital letters, lowercase and uppercase, a combination. Minimum 8 digits have to be your password. And then if there is a suspicious email from an unknown source, do not answer them, delete them immediately. And you can use a antivirus software, which will detect most of the software. And also, please pay attention to social media. In social media, people unnecessarily are sharing their data, like I'm on holiday, which is a message to the thieves, I'm not at home. So also pay attention to this kind of stuff. Okay, interesting. Thanks. How gaming consoles can be used to commit a crime? Can you give an example? Yes. In gaming, well, let's say a PlayStation. I hope it's not a problem to mention a brand name. My son has a PlayStation. They're playing online, for instance. So in two ways, it is possible you're buying stuff from there. I mean, you're paying a real currency, US dollars or whatever amount, and you're buying stuff. If somebody, and as I said, it is assigned an IP address, and if there is an opening, a software problem in the codes of this gaming, your account can be hacked, and they will be taking over your credentials. And by using those credentials, they can reach out to your credit card data. So to answer your question, this is one way of committing a crime. The second one, I don't know if it has been globally known, but here in Turkey, there have been a game, I forgot the name of the game, but I think it was Blue Fish or something like that, was scaring kids, especially 8 to 12 years old, and they were committing suicides. And sometimes, thanks for the question. I'm going to type another website address, shodan.io. So if you log in here, this shodan.io, it shows some IP addresses and port numbers. So port numbers, remember when you type netstat, next to the IP address, there were port numbers. So those port numbers are, each of them are assigned for a service. For example, I'm using HTTP for accessing to internet. I might be using another port for file transfer. There is a FTP is using port number 43, for example. So there are different ports for different services. So this Shodan is Shodan. It's an open website actually, using web IP addresses with open ports that people can access. There are cameras, webcams that they can access without the permission of the owner. So yeah, to answer the question of games, stalking, it can be used for stalking game consoles. What I have actually is something like this, a tape, and whenever I'm using my laptop, I always have this tape covering the camera of my laptop. I also heard some IT giants are also doing the same, so you may take this as a recommendation. Okay, another question. If possible, please share the safety guide to secured connections in mobile and PC. Let me do this next week, please, because I'm not sure what it means. Safety guide to secured connections. Yani short answer would be use antivirus software. It's going to help you, and always be careful on what you are accessing, and emails especially. Here, just to because it's related, and NATO lately, or I don't know, it was in 2016 or 14, has announced cyber as the fifth war area. It's land, air, navy, space, and cyber. So the importance of cyber activities are increasing. Also, with the advances in technology, more and more we are using internet and digital devices. As I have mentioned, IoT is the next big thing. We will be using Internet of Things, and of course the crimes committed by digital means will be the main thing. So my recommendation, try to focus on your legal career and have a good understanding on the cyber area. Okay, Google hacking database. Here, is there any screening methods or applications to run in mobile devices, like what you have shared, Aristotle, Linux, or Windows platform, in order to detect the virus? Yes, I don't know if it's a problem to mention Kaspersky, for example. Kaspersky. If you buy Kaspersky, I mean, it's not only Kaspersky, also Avast, Norton antivirus. So these are, and there are others. If you Google, you will find these are antivirus software, and they have mobile applications too. What they basically do is they're going to warn you that this site is not safe, it's using cookies which may harm your device, or they're going to scan the attachment that comes along with the email, or when you log into a website, it's going to scan that website and tell you it's safe or not. Another point I just remembered, visiting websites. Sometimes, not sometimes, it's becoming more and more common. Cyber criminals are devising websites which will direct the user to log in their site. But when you log into their website, they're going to collect information because of the connection establishment that we have seen. They will access to your device. which is not good. Okay, if the hacker is from a different country and the targeted institution or the computer system is in another country, what are the challenges that authorities face to gather digital evidence? Okay, there is Interpol, as you know, and Interpol has a well, I can say, equipped and trained staff for digital forensics. They are conducting workshops and trainings in terms of digital forensics. So it is very, actually, this question, thank you for the question. It's common. I mean, I don't want to mention countries or nations. Let's say a country or X nation is attacking at a bank of country Z. This is very common. What is done here is the information, as much as possible, is collected and then shared with the host country's legal authorities, and then they start their investigation. There are actually cases like that. Hopefully, in another webinar, we can do a few case studies how criminals are arrested. But to answer your question, yes, it is possible. How is this possible? With the cooperation of legal agencies. Okay, how to use Shodan.io by way copying in strange IP address which appears in NetStats results. Well, Shodan. Well, basically, Shodan is used. There are port numbers in Shodan. Because it's not the topic of today, I will try to be as quick as possible, as short as possible. There are open ports which can be used to access to that device or IP address which is used by that device. And Shodan lists those IP addresses. Okay.
Okay, I think we've kind of gone into the night as well. So if there are no more questions, I think we can call it a night and probably join for the next one on a similar topic, I believe.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Well, next Wednesday, hopefully, we are having another webinar. It's cyber investigations. And we are going to touch to the areas like social media and social media intelligence,
Right.
OSINT, like open source intelligence, and stuff like that. I'm hoping it's also going to be an interesting webinar.
Okay, so thank you, Mr. Kara, for this very exciting webinar, and I thank the audience for your participation and the questions you all have put forward. So we hope we had an interesting day today. We will hopefully see you in another week's time. Don't forget to log in and give us your feedback because that is very important for us to develop these webinars further. So I would say good night to Mr. Kara and good night to you all. And Lakmali, you can end the session now.
Thank you.